So imagine you are having severe back pain and you decide to put your trust in a doctor. He's a new doctor, he's confident, says that he's never made any mistakes before, and claims that he can take your pain away. So, you agree to have surgery. It seems that everyone around this doctor really likes him, so you agree in hopes that this surgery is going to provide some sort of relief. However, you wake up after surgery and you've lost the ability to move your legs. Was this spinal cord injury just a medical mishap? Or did this doctor intentionally try to kill you? Well, Dr. Christopher Daniel Dunch, a former neurosurgeon working in Dallas, ended up getting the nickname of Dr. Death. 33 out of 38 of his patients were seriously injured and 2 were killed. His reputation was so dangerous that they are literally about to come out with a TV series based on how terrifying his true story is, which you guys should definitely go watch on Peacock. But how exactly did this man get here? Well, Christopher Dunch was born in Montana on April 3rd of 1971. He graduated from a small Christian college and then decided that he'd go to medical school in Memphis. Part 2 of Dr. Death. So Christopher Dunch had such a promising beginning. He ended up getting into the University of Tennessee Health Science Center, and during his time there, he ran labs, raised millions of dollars in grant funding. He was listed as one of 3 inventors on a successful patent, and he also gave a stem cell research tour to the governor of Tennessee. And while this seems amazing, there was already some issues. He ended up giving himself more credit than what was due for those patents, as opposed to his partners who were trying to create cells from culture to eliminate the need for human extraction. Also, later on his resume, he ended up saying that he graduated from St. Jude's Children's Hospital, getting a doctorate in microbiology whenever they said they didn't even have that program at that time. But it didn't take him long to set his sights on neurosurgery. Because of how hard being a neurosurgeon is, you're required to participate in around 1,000 surgeries during your residency. But during his 4th year, he was sent to an impaired physicians program, which usually happens when you're suspected of being under the influence during operation. And this occurred during his 4th year. After graduating, he worked with some biotech startups, and then moved to Dallas, got a job at Baylor, and started to operate. Part 3 to Dr. Death. The way that the other surgeons describe him there is being very much arrogant. He would talk about how amazing he was, even though he was so new to the field. And several of his surgeries ended up botched. A medical investigator came to see him as a patient, and after his surgery, he experienced chronic pain and limited mobility. Another male patient came to see him and was literally left with bone fragments in his spinal canal, eventually losing all function in his left side. And not to mention one of his best friends, Jerry Summers, came to see him for his surgery because he had chronic pain due to a car accident, which ended up rendering him quadriplegic. So the people at Baylor limited him to minor surgeries only. And then a mom of 2 girls came to see him for a routine surgery, in which she lost so much blood that she lost her life. And during the operation, Dr. Dunch ignored that anything was going wrong. He just continued the surgery. So Baylor was absolutely done with him and kicked him out. So he moved on to Dallas Medical Center. He ended up getting temporary privileges until they received his records from Baylor. This was a huge mistake. Dr. Death Part 4. So at this new surgery center, he literally lasted for less than a week. His privileges were pulled after he killed yet another patient and paralyzed another. And this is when Dr. Henderson steps in. He's a longtime spine surgeon, and he ends up having to do corrective surgery on 2 of Dunch's patients. And he's literally so horrified with his work that he thinks he's an imposter. So he faxed a photo of the doctor over to the University of Tennessee just to check. And it really started to seem like he knew what not to do and was doing it on purpose. Anyone with a basic anatomy class would have done better. Since he was only temporary, the hospital was not required to report him. And Dr. Dunch ended up getting 2 more jobs after this, and severely hurting more people. One was left temporarily paralyzed, but with permanent pain. And the other one, he mistook a neck muscle for a tumor, and cut a hole in his esophagus and left a surgical sponge in his throat. And the surgeon that came in to pick up the pieces afterwards referred to Dr. Death as a crazed maniac, and even said that it was clear that he was trying to kill his patient. It was obvious Texas was going to have to find a way to remove his license. Dr. Death Part 5. So after a lot of investigating, Texas Medical Board revoked his license. And this happened on December 6th of 2013. And his life was just in disarray after this. He went bankrupt and was literally caught on the Walmart camera stealing merchandise, and was arrested. There was still a possibility that he could get a medical license somewhere else, so they had to pursue criminal charges. They opened up an investigation, got him arrested, and started a trial. And during this trial, a lot of things came out. There was clear dangerous behavior between him and one of his long-term ex-girlfriends, and also another side piece of his. And one of his most damning pieces of evidence was an email of his that he was writing to a lover, comparing himself to Einstein and God, and basically stating that he was ready to leave kindness and goodness behind and become a cold-blooded killer. He ended up getting sentenced to prison, but there was a lot of other stuff that came out during this trial. And I also left out so many details throughout this whole story. You guys will have to watch the show on Peacock. They do such a great job of capturing just how scary this doctor is.